This is Gerald Jovans. When you follow my videos, you will already know that letters have a significance. They have certain meaningfulness, and the meaningfulness will combine with other letters in words and combine its features, and you can learn these how to interpret that from letter to letter. There's much more coming to it, because what with words that more or less sound the same and directs you already into a different perspective, um, because of intonation, because of tones, all of these things. That makes it, of course, more difficult, but you have to learn to sense them a little bit, hear them also, and deal with them. It's the same like if you learn music and you just learn notes. Notes is just one of the methods to note the music down, but before that happened, you had also the colorfulness between the notes and how they fit together. There were other elements that the intelligence of hearing music, learning to play music, and learning to sense music was dealing with that as well. When we deal too much with separate elements, we sometimes might forget the variations that occur and that we also deal with. In language, there's also much more variations added than just the letters. So what we will do, I will resume it a little bit, not to make it too complicated. There's a lot of meanings here around a word that is more or less now, with all these variations. The Chinese ones, the Dutch ones, and then some combinations with words that completely changes the perspective as well. So how do we deal with that? And there's a way to do that so that you keep your focus there, and I will guide you here how I did that. It was a bit more difficult to make a video in a certain order that I can keep the order and tell you what I was doing. But I think now I managed to give you some example with this, thanks to the word now in its variations. How do we deal with that? Because there are certain aspects that make it, of course, difficult. There are differences in pronunciation here. Sometimes you have now, so you have now, there's more space between it. Now, you have dependency there. You hear these things and they count. And so when you interpret them, you have to learn to uninterpret them as well, and how to deal with them, and I will do that. That's the first problem that I will deal with. The second thing will, of course, be the foundation, the basics themselves. How do these letters combine, and what is the basics first before the variations? What's the basic, and what is understood already in the basics? The shifting of different balance between the letters will influence its context a little bit, will influence the how strong it hangs together, or which things hang together better and which things hang together less well, and have an effect, and also have an effect and result in the meaningfulness of the words. And I will all explain that thanks to this example. But the first thing will, of course, be, I will go step by step, that everything will be understood. The first step is, of course, understand the letters, what they mean, and what this particular combination of the three letters means. So let's start with that. I had already a tool that I used before, so that I could use to interpret the Chinese characters better, which made it quite practical, because the characters are always fitting within that square, and the square was also a yearly cycle. So if you put these elements there, you know immediately where you have to look for them. And I noticed, so far it still works, that the characters, you can recognize the positions that are expressed also with the sounds there. Strangely enough, it still works, so I will still use it with some reservation. But I have then some schemes that help us to recognize these letter positions of the sounds better. So we have this focus of A here, that's here the Roman letter, and the N is then this choice within of something that I can take out or not take out, the center position, and then the grown part of A, which is also growing outside, of course. This is the basics with which you can recognize a character, how it can be pronounced, how it is spoken, and also the meaningfulness of it, what your attention goes to in this character. Have you, for instance, this example now? So you have this this character, and you have the parts within. You have there. You see the different parts that go in and out. As you see, they attach and they loose a little, or a little bit loose. You have this centered position in the middle, so there's a center position combined with O. So you have one inside and as A, and one that is becoming bigger as O. So it is from A to O. If you have the O position, it is like a grown A form, and that's why A is not just the middle, but it's that part that afterwards grows, so you can take that out. So that is recognizable how this combination can be pronounced as now. And basically, you can resume it a little bit. You show how something grows actually out of your focus, and and you can take out the elements of it. You can interpret it, what is useful for it and what is not useful for it. The character itself means noise, but it's also open to interpretation. This noise in a certain context can be a pleasant noise as well. Noise at its own is neither pleasant or unpleasant. It just seems unpleasant because we don't know what it's about. That's I'm going to go further into later. But then you know already the basics, what the character means when I base myself upon the sounds. And of course I will go deeper into it later, but then the other pronunciation of now is different, and you have that dependency, you see, by this tone. And there I have to ask myself, is these three positions or three letters alone, or is there somewhere a second, an extra position taking part of it? So it's NAO, it's not now in one go, it's now. You have a bit more time for it, and as if you almost break it with a pause and you go towards it. And that pause, that idea of a pause, like you have the aleph sound, is always this taking a distance, that you think about something that you don't know very much or very sure what it is, so you take a distance so that you can think about it, like how shall I approach it? That's that sound before the A. Here it is a different sound, but it is, this idea is there as well. Why the aleph is lying somewhat between, what shall I do with it? Something positive, can something positive grow out, or shall it grow negative? I don't know yet. Here it is only that dependency to see what with this usefulness, the within the N, yes or no aspect in A, my center, will grow out and will grow bigger, and this takes a distance from it. So it's not making the choice itself between the yes and no, the N position of taking out something that is useful in my center vision. It takes a little bit of a distance and then looks from, okay, but what has been grown here? What has been blown up? So that is already a slight change of focus. I hope you can follow, but I will also provide you also where in my scheme of logic every letter also fits, so that you can understand how it builds up in logic as well. But the sounds of is always like there's something here that dominates, which gives you a dependency to the next letter, which is in this case a O. So what is then blown up in the situation, I will have a distant look at it. And one of the words, which is a now, is this character, which is in two parts. The first part is then that leading part, which tells you how to approach it. The second part is how it sounds. That's the sound. So we have the character and the sound. The sound is then derived from it. The leading character is the character of the moon or of the reflection, which looks how it will look at that character of that where you have the sound now as well. And I will explain that character later. But you have this dependency. This dependency, what is growing, also depends on how I approach it. I will come to that later. But also here you see, so you have the N, A, the O in that second character, and the dependency of your character, the leading character, and the feedback process in it as well is recognizable, and I will explain it later, what it means, how you can interpret it. This idea of the tone will also help us how to approach these sounds, that there is a dependency in two characters, one that leads over the other. In this way, na is looking at what kind of result I can achieve from the situation. What I want to achieve is a distance from what is going to be received there. So it will be a reflection here on here, or something that also will give you reflections. The real meaning will come later. So now, of course, I already said that the sounds can be derived from it, because N is some details from within that is taken out or that I can take out and make a context with it. In A, in that it is a center position in it, and outside that center position is a bigger, a widened region there, which fits with the meaningfulness of the letter O. But what does it really mean, and what does this combination mean? I come to that first, because that's the basics, that where you can do something with it before we make the subtleness, of course. So these letters, what do they mean, and what kind of balance will they give also, because that also takes part. It's not just a combination of letters with some geometry, and then you see something, how it looks like. That's not enough. You also have to know, how do we approach it? How does it inspire also? Because letters and letter combinations are there to direct us in the right direction, so that we can recognize the object that, or the subject that is pronounced with these letters. That's why every letter combination is also chosen unconsciously by going into the direction with the elements that it needs. And every letter has a position in a scheme of order, of complexity, and the three letters here fit into the two first categories, and I can derive all these letters to actually quite simple ideas. The first 9 letters are actually points in space. Let's say one-dimensional points even. 1 point in ATK, 2 points in ULB, 3 points in CMX, and in the middle, or centralized a little bit further away, so that you can work with the material that's there as well, or with the limits and limitations at the end. That's actually all the kinds of focus that you can make with points in space. And then the next letters are about the changes and movements, so you follow the movements. Where does it go to? So you always need two focuses. This is where it's not, and that's where it is. That's why also the N, which is about the starting point of material, is also dealing with what is not there and what is there. This choice, these changes, what is changing. And because we follow it from A, we follow it from our own vision, from the pushing our vision, what we will do with N, we will follow what we know, what we understand. So we follow the green part, let's say, the progress. So we follow the progress. Can we also reach the grown progress? Because O is then where it grows to, where it is going to, how it evolves, where and also where really everything is changing already, where you can see what is changing, and in that order. Can we also meet that always? That will be also answered a bit later. But basically, okay, I don't focus too much on how I draw things, because the basics, that's like what you hear as well. The basics is recognize the sounds, recognize the foundations, recognize what you need for it. You need to develop a certain intelligence, not too much a rationality to play with vertical, horizontal points. If you focus too much on that, you don't hear the balances, because there's also always a push in it, a push that wants to make a balance. So if you don't realize the balance between these three letters, they are just three letters separately, and you don't understand them, and you don't know how to work with them. But the elements, how I describe them, can be useful, but it takes really a very long time before you can also use an intelligence to recognize things as well, to recognize the same things that are there in the theory, but in which balance they are there takes a long while. So these two levels actually, so the points are also about our focus that we take and interpret, how we interpret things. We have the A involved, so I should talk about that. The whole system is that system of balance. That's why we use it. That's why it works. That's why you use words. That's why we need words. The words come to us. It gives a signal, and this signal tells us where to go to and how to go to. If there's an A involved, it says follow it. Follow it with your vision, with your perspective. Do that. You have something to grasp. Go for it. That's the focus. That's my focus that I take. N was about changes. So it was the directions already. We follow its directions. The directions move somewhere. The material moves somewhere. It's already a destiny between yes and no. And we focus upon it with A, that we want to keep on following it and do something with it for ourselves. So we try to follow the positive things, of course, but the next letter is the O. If everything works fine and you have already these yes and no's focused together, it still doesn't say that if we focus on it, it immediately says that everything that if we grow it, if we look at all its destinies, if it's blown up in all of its destinies, that it's also as much positive as we expect it to be, or that it's more negative or less negative. No, it's just blown up and we immediately see the results. How we further interpret it, I will come to that next. But you already understand what is going on with the letters and the letter combination already a little bit. What also comes to it is that because you see this arrow, the whole balancing system of all the letters, there are two directions. The first direction, the 9 first letters are just the starting point in space, but it's already directing towards what you think is correct, and you follow that idea up until a point where you more and more receive feedback. You immediately receive feedback every three steps. You have already some feedback that you cross the borders, that you cross the limits, and so on. But it starts to dominate in the half of the system, and the half of the system is more or less after in A it's more or less in balance, And after A, you have the two directions. You follow what you still pushing forward and see what comes from it with the W. And if the environment is dominating, you have the other letter, the Z. That's why at that point you have two letters at the same position. And after that, it's all more feedback than your push. With N, you can still push the positive things that you want. With A, it is about pushing, and O is it's almost at its maximum. It can show how much, still from its own vision, how much it grown, so that you can see, okay, with the N then as a first letter, how much of it will be there that we can use. That focus is already there. That background idea that I just told you is there in the words, and I will show you later how. But that push here from A to O is the maximum of my push, of my personal distinction that I give attention to. So it will be about how much do I understand it, how much can I push it, and so on. Everything in the now region will deal with that direction. And I will go, of course, to more explanation later, but that comes to it, that is important. With the N, I had two options, the yes thing and the no thing. With A, I had one mind, and I'm looking how much can I keep my starting point in the last letter, O. I also have these two options. These options are just telling you how much it's also going to that destiny that you imagine. How much is that? Maybe there's a moment that you can still, the last time, you can still interfere and push it further into a direction that is realistic, because more and more you will go to something that is real and not something that you want to see. It will have to face reality. Okay, but let's have a resume then of all the letters. So how do we translate it more or less so that you really understand what N, A and O as letters, only as letters, are telling you? Thanks to the letter N, we can discern what we consider as usefulness compared to what we do not understand. The useful things we will try to use and will be able to use also in time. It's in the timing schedule scheme, in its timing context. That will be the things that we will be able to use after a while. That's where our attention goes to with the N. In A, my mind is always focused on it. I'm still learning, I'm trying, I'm acting on according to what I understand, and in that way I push myself further into the system, and perhaps with a little bit of luck I will also learn from it for good or for bad. The O as a letter is an engagement that I can explain like this. So what enlarges there when following what is enlarging when we follow all the changes over time. It creates all of its moments of the highs and lows, and above all it shows all of the changes at the right time. It's the same for every word that has these letters in it. That foundation is there. If you just use it too irrationally, you will not understand them. You cannot remember it, you can try to sense it. You still need to understand the balance more than just the letters as well, to really understand what it is telling you. So what is in fact the general focus? Just the letters, the influence of the letters of combinations. We try to interpret here what we recognize as being good or bad, and when we really have it as an unfolding situation where everything is blown up or fully shown, these engagements will show it really is for what it is, and it will be bigger as we started, and the results will show itself as a foundation of this combination of words. And whether these results in there will be useful or not will be shown in later examples. How much we, via the letter A or I, will also be able to take it onwards, continue it, keep track of it, of all those things that has been blown up in positive and negative alike. And if they are still then open to interpretation, and whether in this balance we are still able to push the whole process further with it or not, and if this will benefit us or not, it's not defined at that place. We just see it blown up, and what we will do with it will be defined later in all my examples. But now with this extra variation, so we have already the three letters N, A, and O. Are these really three letters? I mean, the now, you have variations that sometimes also makes you think, yeah, but are these just a rhythm of three? Is this like a rhythm of three? Now you just one, two, three in just one go. But with now, it's almost like you have four spaces. They have this four spaces. It's in a rhythm of four. It's a bit different. You have this na, almost a pause, and going to the o after that. This pause a little bit gives you this extra attention with the tone. Oh no, we deal with the balance between these two letters A and O differently. It doesn't flow from A to O. It just separates at that point. So this will be a different interpretation. And this distance that will be created can be heard in the variations of the word, and they will also influence my focus. My focus in A is the stronger it hangs together in one go in a word, the stronger I have my focus, the stronger I have an opinion, the stronger my focus will count as well, and I will have a control over my focus as well. The further away it is, I don't have a control over what happens anymore. In now, here in the first example here, you see now hangs very much together, and it almost folds out of the same situation. Now it's not. There's this distance between it, as if you get a little bit more time in your focus on A before it blows up. It gives a slightly different focus on O, which I will explain later as well, and with NAUW, which exists in certain words where you really hear a separation with that sound aleph. By the way, in that spoken word thing, you also will create a distance between these two elements, and the effect of it will also be different. It will not mix, your opinion will not mix in what will happen, and that's how you have to interpret also these aspects there. I didn't explain it yet, how you have to explain it, but I'll just explain to you the principle of distances between sounds and letters. Sadly enough, this is important as well, to interpret these things well and to balance them out well. And even if you want to make formulas, or you want to create a form that fits to it, you have to deal with it. So all the separate elements, N, A, and O, in all these three examples are exactly the same, but only because of the distance between these elements, the distance between these results also becomes bigger. And the blown up there will be also detached from my distinction between the good and right things that I can take out or cannot take out, or the distinction that I can make to interpret as well will be a distance from it. And you will see in later examples from now what it all means, that it creates also a distance from your sense of reality, and the pushes that you make In the first example, if you make push there and make an interpretation, you will be quite focused on what there is. In the second one, you have to really realize, okay, shall I keep my balance to make an interpretation? Otherwise, I could ruin it. I could break the situation. And in the last aspect, in the last example, you can't even make a connection anymore that is directly of influence of what you think is useful, what is not useful. It's just the whole thing is there, and there's no room for interpretation. It's already at a distance from your contributions. So the less the more distance there is, the less push you can give via A or via NA, and you have also less to determine yourself, less to decide in the results, and that also participates because A was also about interpretation. I want to interpret. I am the one who's in charge. I am the one who's focused. In this focus and the object are further apart. It influences the meaning of the words. The meaning of the words comes later. And you have this, the yeses and the nos. You can see it here in the now. You can follow it in now. It's quite close. It's in one go. That's nice. In now, you have there's that distance already. So you have to. It's more almost like a projection towards what you're doing, and you have to have a distance to it, and you can follow it up. That's true, but it's more like a distant interpretation already. While the na you can only check its remains in the and na I know a few examples in Dutch. Then maybe na is after o. O can be a word with O, like after war, for instance. Yeah, you only check its remains after the things that happened. So that is more or less resumed what I have here. But I will go more into detail of interpreting the differences, and you will understand if with examples. Of course, you have the O, that grows out of the A, the ow, that is also blowing up with where you see the differences between the two aspects, but they grow out of each other. The ow, there is that distance in that rhythm, so you are just looking at what is blowing up, so that is different. And the ao is you only look at what happened in a way. You can understand these distances. So, but I will have the n added, so I'll take also the a as a foundation. So the n with a is then the two directions to take out. So what you think is useful and what might not be useful, it's always at the same time. It's at these two positions, and you make up your mind what is useful there by following A. So n with A, you follow what you know, what you understand. So you follow the green part, you follow the yes part, and you follow that part. And it's also a little bit on the horizontal line underneath, so you follow the part that you understand. In the logic of the letters that I have explained before, it makes sense. So na means I follow up between the yeses and the nos. I follow a, I follow what I know. So, and when you follow what you know, you follow what comes after. Is that a little bit? It's still the balance between yes and no is still there, but you follow after, you follow what comes after. Na is a Dutch word which means after. You follow after, you follow the results of what you understand, even though the negative thing is still there. But you follow the results of what you understand, and that's the way how you follow the after, how you go after something, how you follow up something, and so on. That's the way to do it. No, then they have the O and the N. If you have underneath the A with the yeses and the no's, and it blows up, of course it blows up together, but there you have not the choices. The O gives you always the two choices at the same time. So you have two moments. You have the moments where you have it and the moment where you don't have it. What you will follow is not decided here. The O is not deciding that you have to follow yes or no. It's at the same level. So you have the yes and no at the same time. In Japan, no will follow also that choice. You always have that choice. No in English and in a lot of languages means no, so you don't want to follow it. It's also that contradiction, so there's a yes and there's a no part, and with no actually you don't know which one is there at that point. So here the empty part in some languages is, or the not knowing is more important than the choice that you have still, that is 50-50. Now then together with the now, which is growing together, you have this enlarged area which you can follow up. So the na is getting bigger in now. So also in O, the N will continue to grow with it. And also there, because it's O, you have these two options. You could see it almost as before and after, but you can also have the full picture there, and you can still interpret it. So what shall I follow up? Shall I follow up what I understand, or shall I follow up everything which is there? And that's open. This openness will be in every interpretation of this word now, which you'll see later. The next one is now, where there's more distance with the O, and where it becomes also impossible to follow it further. So we have this push from underneath, and you say, okay, maybe I follow the good part, but because of the distance here, you can't do that. This is just a playing with it. But if you if you make this distance, you can see, okay, I can't follow it very well. There will be conflict. The positive and the negative will be equally strong. You can't choose. You can't. I made a few versions in it. I will not do that now. But actually, the balance of A to O will be more important, that you keep your neutrality there. Otherwise, you will lose focus, and it will become contradictory. The last possibility, of course, is making this distance. I already told you, it's like looking at the results only, the positive and the negative. You're just they're actually no longer counting as a balance, even when it started as na. Na in that way is only related to the after vision which you have now. So everybody can understand the idea that is a focus in a center point, so your focus also, how you understand things and so on. If you can continue to keep your focus there while everything is growing, it will be an enrichment, of course. And that you have with AU is that enrichment from one area to a bigger area. Very understandable. You see it in two ways expressed. If it's expressed as AU, you have still two letters, so you will still have a focus and following up of what becomes bigger. You already made somewhat a choice, so you're a little bit off already, so your choice will not always be perfectly in the middle. You will have some choices. Maybe you follow the good parts, you follow the bad parts, you follow what you know, you follow what you don't know, and give attention to it. It can be all kinds of things where your attention goes, but things will become bigger, so you will pay attention to what is becoming bigger, and you can continue to interpret it. That's AU. OW, which is a bit different. There, the difference between A and O became significant. And there it is really a follow-up of what became bigger. And there your mentality could, yeah, it's not a direct influence anymore, but maybe you can still interpret it a bit afterwards already. And of course, when the distance is really very large, okay, then you can only check what it was that became bigger. And that way everybody can understand. It's the same elements, but the distances make a difference. It's about time I will go to the examples. Before that, I have a last time this difference between now and now. In now, you see that I have the n underneath of the differences of the yeses and no. This is going up and again with yes and no and grows bigger. In one go, I can go from one now. I will follow and continue my own center control of my distinctions also between the yeses and nos. I can keep an eye also to decide yes and no directions every time. With now, this O is has a distance, and it also creates a difference between the N or the yeses and nos. I no longer have the option of the yeses and nos to continue to decide there. But the only thing I can do is keep my eyes open to whatever will be a mixed condition of yeses and no. But what I certainly can't do is make my push here. I need this stability. I have a distance here and I have this stability which is there. And this reminds us immediately on the first word that means now, which is mud, which I thought the strangest word, which was very different from the other ones. But if I look at this character, where I need the stability by pushing N and O, I can recognize it almost like how the character looks like, and also about what it means. Now, here needs control and stability, because I can't push my own thoughts between yes and no, between opinions any longer. I come into a mixed condition which I cannot push further in with how I want to push it. I can't, it's as much negative as positive. I can't push it myself. And that's that distance that you have here. And it sticks, of course, this as well. Here you have the character of mud, which in the middle is also my center focus, or A, compared or in contradiction to O, or the bigger focus as the outside, where also the top layer says don't go further. That's almost that stop sign there, and underneath the stability that you need there. At the same time, it's also, you have underneath that stability is the character of earth, and the next is your dependency. In your word now, you have that dependent character first. That dependent character is water, where that water will be dependent to earth, and earth and water will create mud, of course. It will not be your stable focus where you can do with it what you want. No, you need your own stability. You cannot decide to push this further. Mud will not work with you, because the earth and the water can only be sensed how you have to deal with it. You can only deal with it when try to keep focus, to keep yourself stable. All these things can be recognized in it. And so the here it shows that dependency, where you are not able to provide that direct connection to it. You need to watch over your result. And in the now, it's that your N is a discerning between yes and no. The realization, what you use for it. You have that pause even. It's not a real pause, but oh, has the same significance of like that with the aleph, that taking a distance. Oh, I have to watch over it twice. I have to think over. Maybe I don't know immediately what to do. So there is warning, almost like, oh no, you're dependent something. That's the pause, and I start all over with a lengthen further, and where I see what is enlarged, and this enlargement still has this n idea of starting focusing it. So positive and negative will be mixed. We don't have a control of it, but it will still be mixed. So the ow and ow, the main difference is actually the o and the a are these two levels. Always, you can recognize them in every character as well. But the ow, which is in one go, will go from the center to the outside in a fluent movement, as ow is will not be in a fluent movement, but will have these contradictions, and also it will show also what you need to do to go back to your balance, keep your balance in the contradictions. You see the contradictions in ow. You need to stop going further. You need to go down to the earth, and then you can sense it with the water, with the mixing of the water, of course, how you can keep your focus straight in balance in this way. But the characters with now, without the contradictions, they are positive and grow, and positive in a way. They grow, and there's nothing that really stops them. They grow, and you can keep on interpreting it. It pushes the door open in a way. And this character, I will explain what it is, and the things that can be made positive can be pushed through it as well. And there is room for interpretation, because A keeps itself connected by this pushing open. And the big character is actually the door, is a door. It's also the character of man. And that's our access points. And what do we see at the other side? It's a character of she, or market, or city even. You can even have the character there which that has a reference to a busy place. All these things are fine associations that you can make there, that gives you a clue what this character is about. But let's go and start from the door and present it in such a way that you can recognize it from the sounds, because you have this not contradiction, but they go into one another. Why A is like the access point, like the door for O to open. This O is this space, this bigger space beyond it, which we do not know at that point if it's positive or negative. But we try to follow, just because we are like that, we try to follow what we think to know, what we think to recognize. And the character means noise in a way, and noise can be quite negative in a way, because, and that's what you also have beyond the door. If the door is only just slightly opening and we hear noise, the first thing we hear noise at our neighbors, we think it's something negative. We think we are a bit, we take a distance, and we're not sure if this is a good or bad thing. It just sounds loud, and we don't know if this is a good thing or not a good thing. And that's what this is in the beginning. In the beginning, if it's just at a distance, this loud can be negative or positive. In a way, it's neither both. But we first hear the annoying thing from it. That's how we experience it. It's a bit annoying, and we don't know what to do with it, but it's your interpretation still. So if we don't interpret it, it's not annoying. It just is what it is. It's louder. The funny thing is, if you combine je with the character, you have actually a combination which makes a connection to it. See the water here as well, by the way, just the sensing of yeah, it's more the emotions that sense it, the hand that grasps it, and then the taking out what I want to take out there. At that point, when it's negative and you make a connection via je or re, we call it in the Roman script, is actually quite funny, because re, if I really add the formula of re to it, I will have also the effect what it means, because I have this noise in the background. If I add a here, I mean, if I, that means I stretch it in time, I give it more time, I stretch also the forms. Re, by the way, the ancient Egyptian god here is also related with stretching the forms at the end of the evening, where all the forms are stretched during the evening, and you see how the reflections are in the shadows of the things, is absolutely also correct association with that word. And with the R to it means I also make a connection. And how I do that, I stretching, make a connection of that noise. I simply open the door and this noise comes out, and I can see it much better focused, and I can see also its content, and it's no longer negative or what I don't know if it's negative or positive. Now it is, this noise is something pleasant actually, because now I see it's almost like there's a party going on at the neighbors, and I can participate. I open the door completely and I participate. I make a connection. That's how you have to interpret this. Je now or re now. I have no clue how the ancient Egyptians really pronounced re, but the foundations are actually similar in a way as you can also interpret it in other languages. And together, this means lively or bustling with noise and excitement, to liven up and have even a jolly good time. So once you access the place, connect to it, these loud noises from the neighbors or the neighboring place seems to be from a joyful party that you as well might as well enjoy. That's that x-axis point again. N, distinction between good and bad. Ah, you decide. Oh, it blows up. Now, thanks to this combination, I'm open to interpretation. I can make a connection, and it can only be something that I can connect to, as I did already by adding the first two letters of re here. Another word that is quite near to it, instead of now, you also have the Dutch word nou, which I can have at exactly the same spot. It's this door which is at the brink of opening, where you have the yeses and the nos, the good thing and the bad thing. Will I close it further? Will I open it further? And to what will I gain access? Now is written with u, so u is actually getting smaller or getting less, or only slightly developing. That's the meaning of u. So it is not gaining access to a bigger result like with the O, but it is decreasing because of the U. It's decreasing its focus, so I have to show it with a decreasing focus, or maybe even with a lesser axis. So if I have that lesser axis, it's getting narrower and narrower, and that's the meaning of the word. It's narrow. The ow has a and u, so the a, or the focus, has to go into the smaller region, or becoming smaller, yeah, sensitivity as well, so that I have this narrow passage towards it. It's because this A and the U are melting down to this ever smaller and decreasing space, and that expresses it very well as well. Now also has this W sound. W, I can still express it there. The W is at the edge of what I was pushing, as I already told before. So it's at the end of what I can push. How far can I push, and how far can I sense it, how far it can push. That's also where it pushes with your senses through the door. How far can I go? How far can I go through this narrowness? This is the W that also senses how far can I push further through this access point, which is very narrow. Now, by the way, is also used in Dutch in a word which probably is not even in a book, because it's just a oral word which is in Holland. They use it a lot of time, the now, and it's a kind of stop word also, which is very well expressed by this image, which is a focus on whatever is appearing there, which is coming through, and that I can recognize, and what I can sense there. There goes my attention to now. Okay, I see it now. You know the sense how it's being used. You will not find it probably in a book of translations, but it still exists, and it fits here into this series. A few more examples now, or to yield. You can here see the hand again. So you yield something from it, and it also comes out. Whatever you yield out, positive or negative, whatever I can use, it fits again with the same structure. The w is also in the lengthening of what can comes out of God. Whatever results can be sensed from there, can be sensed and come out from there. Now here also is no good, where you have the two characters left and right, the openness left and the thing right, where you have and then the distinction up there. If you go from A to O, the A is my opinion and O the openness. One thing is that I have in my mind here is that whenever you open the door, don't count on it that you can use everything that there is. It also doesn't automatically lead to the goods. It doesn't explain everything here, but it also says that in a way, I think that I have to investigate that. Is that also there in this expression? That that is not just something bad, but it's just it is no good. You can't count on it that you know immediately what is good and what is bad. No, you can't. That you see there as a second symbol really is a thing that you're sure that you can use all the time. You can't count on that you can in that way. A few more. Now the negative. Yeah, of course there were negative words as well. So you had this open door, which was nice because something could be pushed through. The now showed the dependency on something else. You had the first character and then the second one, which was the negative now, or the dependency with more distance, the dependent tone, the disadvantage results. Going to the results, let's see what kind of words we can derive from it. You have the same thing, can more or less recognize the character, but then with the negative in the middle, the negative and the two contradictions. O and A are contradictory. For the rest, it's quite. It was almost like you can almost see it as a closed closet, and there's nothing in it. I could derive from it here, but it's not really the case. But it is there as contradictory. How do we? What kind of words do we have? We have it combined with yue or moon, or reflection, So, and what does a reflection do? The reflection, it's still quite possible. It's also has the same kind of idea. You can't decide if it's good or not. You don't know what's in it. You can't push it further. If you push it further, that's trouble. But you can reflect on it to see what do we have really. What is the positive and negative things, and can we do something with it? If you take a distance, you can do something good with it, and that's the essence also what you can still do from a distance at the same spot. It's the same kind of mindset, and that you say, okay, what you take out, it was a noise before, now suddenly it's a vividness. You shouldn't push the limits of all what you see there, but your mind can distinct things that maybe at some point it's useful, or at some other point they can become of use. Last character, because I can't do them all, it's this same character again, which I call still the negative distinction here, to make it easy, is with that function here. The first part of the character is a different one. We still know this. The contradiction is about what you think, or how do you want to push the things, and what becomes of it. If it's a bit contradictory, that you are pushing things, but they're not becoming what you expected them to be, one of the things that you can have is that you get angry. When is a situation when you can become angry on it? If you push it, of course, if you keep on pushing it. The first character is a little bit like the standard, where it says this is my terrain, and if you really want to keep others out of your terrain, you say this is my terrain, it's not yours. It's that conflict. You push the things, and you don't want to see what has become of it. Sometimes things have become a bit positive, that, a bit negative of that. If you don't want to see it, you push it, and you push it because you have your own flag. You're working with your flag. You have an agenda, let's say. When you push your agenda, it becomes a conflict. You can see that positively as well. Just say like, I go for the fight. I take out what does not belong, and what I don't want it to attach to me, and I take it out and I remove it from its place. So even this aggression can be used positively if you really want to, and if you're really a bit creative in even things that just seems to be negative all the time. You can use them also differently, and it can inspire you differently as well. But I hope you, in general, it was a very long video, that you can understand that the foundations of the word now were a kind of preparation of your mindset, that you want to push certain things forward. And you cannot always count that because of the distance between the sounds. You can also see how much you can do that. But all these words are basically about that same kind of attitude. You start with something with a distinction between what you think is useful and what is not useful, and it has been grown. What shall I do with it? That kind of question, and that's actually a resume of all the words together. And there is that reminder of it, that don't push it too far, because if you can't sense it, what the results, take a little bit of distance from it, that you really understand what the conditions here are of N, A, and O in all sorts of balances that I also have explained. A very long video, which I will only publish then for the more advanced people who are busy with the theory of letter meaningfulnesses. So it will be hidden on YouTube, but it will be linked at my website soundinformed.com. Thanks again for watching. Bye bye.